All right. Welcome to our second session of the Digital Symposium. We're really grateful to have Peter Hurley here with us. When we were looking for speakers to come out to Utah in the summer, he was one of the first people asked for. His work has helped so many of us, and he's one of the best headshot photographers in the country. And not only that, is he's one of the best teachers in the country. He's so energetic and enthusiastic about what we do. We're so grateful to have Peter Hurley, and we're especially grateful to Canon, who is willing to sponsor Peter coming out, even though it's just digitally. But we're going to go ahead and turn the time over to Peter Hurley.
Thanks, Jaron. And yeah, I was psyched to come out. You know, I was like, that would be awesome. But hey, this works. I've been shooting. I picked up a camera in June of 2000. I guess on June 12th, because I must have put it on my LinkedIn years ago, and so everybody said, "Congratulations on your work anniversary, 20 years." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know." And then I bought my first professional camera, and I started shooting actors, because I was one, and that turned into something huge. So I started teaching in 2011 after the F-stoppers walked into my studio, asked to video me, and then they did. And then we were like, "Can we do a tutorial?" And I was like, "All right." So, and then Scott Kelby asked me to write a book, and a lot of what I'm going to go through today is a lot of the kind of the way I roll and how I develop the look that I do. And it's just a staple for me. I'm big into, I just have been shooting the same way since once I discovered it. I was like, this works. Everybody likes it. I'm making money. Let's just figure it out. And then, I base my teachings around these little ideas that pop up in my head and that help me get a better picture. So I'm going to go through some of that today through a slideshow presentation. You get to know me a little bit better, and let's fire it up. And then, like I said, if I'm really good, if you guys are they all muted? Can they press their space bar and talk to me, or do you have to physically unmute them?
If you guys want to ask questions, you can just press your space bar and ask them, or you can, like say, put a question in the chat, or let me know you'd like to ask a question, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, don't be shy. I'm really chill, and I don't. And if your question's stupid, I will let you know. I'm kidding. There's no dumb questions. And if your question's coming up in my presentation, I'll just say it's coming up. I think I kind of am excited to share this with you guys. Let me fire it up. All right, let's go here. And if there are any technical difficulties with my internet or whatever I'm doing, just let me know if something weird shows up on the screen. I don't know if I've situated Keynote properly, but let's give it a shot. And let's hit play and see what we get. All right. I got to thank Canon for helping me out. I mean, they basically in 2015, I was a medium format shooter until then. They came out with the 5DSR and they asked me to bring it to market. And they said, "Look, we got a 50 megapixel camera. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." And I did it. And all right, cool. Awesome. Sorry, guys. Anyway, that's my name if you didn't know it. I always tell people, follow on social. I try and be fun. I do Instagram. Headshot Crew is my coaching platform, and it's a referral engine. It's got 17,000 photographers all over the world. It's free to sign up if you want to try it. If you want to get in on the coaching, there's a free trial month, and you can always try it. We're doing this initiative called 10,000 Headshots, and I actually need photographers all over the country. I need 200. I think I've got 180 or something. I'm going to try and get it up to 250, but we're shooting 10,000 headshots of people who lost their jobs due to the coronavirus, and we're doing it on July 22nd, and we've got the venues. We just need people that are good headshot shooters that have a setup that can go to these malls that came in and sponsored with us, and Canon's sponsoring it, and we're going to make a Guinness Book of World Records for the most headshots shot in one day. And it's going to be more than 10,000 because I have photographers all over the world doing it too simultaneously, but we're really concentrating on it in the US. Anyway, that's just came up out of my brain because some of my work just so you could see it. I like keeping things pretty simple. And how about, I was going to say we could give a book away if anybody, well, no, it's all right. We already decided how we're giving the books away. How about first person to tell me with their space bar who this person is next to me?
Bruce Weber?
Yes. Was that Laura?
Yes.
You win.
Woohoo!
That's it. See, that was good. I should have just done it like this. That's great. That's Bruce Weber. So I was training for the Olympics in a sailboat. I raced sailboats. And Polo wanted real sailors for this ad campaign they were doing, and I got the job, and I had never modeled before, and he was the photographer on the shoot. And then we became friends, and I started a modeling career with his pictures, and then he encouraged me to pick up a camera. So he's been my biggest source of inspiration, the only reason why I'm a photographer, really. I mean, his encouragement was huge. And I'm going to show you some of my earlier days. This was the picture that he took that went all over the world, and it was on a double spread on the inside cover of magazines, which was really kind of cool. People always ask me what my experience was, like how did being a model, being in front of the camera affect being behind the camera? And there were a number of things, but one of them, I never even knew what Photoshop was. And I'm the guy in the middle, and they cut my pony. I had a ponytail, and they just lopped it off. So they gave me like this helmet head looking look over there, which was weird. I never knew what Photoshop was at that point. Just a bunch of shots of me. This was one of my first headshots in the middle, which was the inspiration for my work. Basically, the photographer, his name's Brad Calcaterra, and he was shoot on a white background, really nice black and white, clean. And I liked it. So when I started shooting headshots, I was like, I'm going to kind of shoot like this and I, was always a big fan of Avedon. So I started shooting on a white background and stuff like that. I used to get dressed up as a model. They dressed me up as a pirate. They'd have me in scuba gear. I was doing a ton of stuff for Hanes, so I got to wear some socks. And I'm a sailor, so they would throw me in sailing ads. And I got to eat some Haagen-Dazs, which was really cool. That was a good one. I got to eat ice cream all day. I was like, I'll take it. Then they just started dressing me up weird, which was not good for me. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing here. No clue. I was walking around New York in my underwear, which was kind of strange. Then they just started taking my shirt off and doing all this stuff. I did all this stuff with my shirt off for some reason. And this was my favorite picture that has ever been taken of myself. I was training for the Olympics, and Bruce and I were talking, and he's like, look, I really want to do a sailing story for Abercrombie and Fitch. And I was like, good, I'll get the boats, I'll get the models, we'll go out sailing. And Bruce took this shot, and it was a double page spread, and they did a big story on me in the Abercrombie Fitch Quarterly that year. And it's my favorite picture, mostly because I'm ripped, I guess. But I was training for the Olympics. I was 30 years old. I was like, this is, I don't think anybody will ever beat that for me. I just loved it. But this is my favorite headshot of myself now. You saw it. If I pause my video, it's in there. This is the one I use. Like, you guys all have to have a good headshot of yourself. Now, I love this picture. It doesn't replace the fact that my other shot is my favorite picture. I just think pictures are so powerful. And if we can create, like, if you think in your head right now, what's your favorite picture of yourself ever in your life? I don't care if you were two, I think photographers put a lot on themselves to take. I mean, we're always trying to take the best picture we can. I don't think I ever pointed my camera at somebody and thought, let me just, pull back the throttle here and not try so hard. I mean, I'm always trying to do my best to create. I'm always trying to create the best picture they have of themselves. And a lot of times I can do that because, maybe people haven't been with somebody that's that talent, or maybe they just maybe they just haven't been with a professional, or maybe at that moment I can create something and capture something that's really special. So that's what I'm always trying to do at the moment that they're in. I'm not trying to beat the best picture that they have in their life. I'm just trying to take the best representative picture of them right now, especially with headshots, because I'm marketing their brand. It's the personal branding that I'm doing. So I take it very seriously, and I try and do my best with everybody that walks in my door. Oh, then they started to give me girlfriends with my shirt off. I don't know what she's looking at. I have no idea what that is. This is crazy. I had all these girlfriends that I didn't even know who they were. And then I don't even remember most of these, but this one I remember because this was my girlfriend, and she dumped me on the way out to this shoot. And that's why I look so miserable. And then I got married, I guess, apparently. And then I got pregnant. Anyway, this is my comedic side of this thing. Then they started giving me fake families. And then I met this one, and I was shooting with this one all the time. And then we really got married. And then she got pregnant. We had twins. And the rest is history. The twins are grown up, and now they're 17 and sitting at home for 3 months. And you could imagine what that's like, having twin 17-year-old girls to deal with on a daily basis. But it's cool. They're cool. One thing I want to show you, I am a big believer in working on internally on myself as much as my business externally, and I think as part of your business is working on your self-image. Like I said, I trained for the Olympics. I was on the U.S. sailing team. I competed at a very high level. When I picked up a camera, I didn't take it any differently. I just went for it. But I trained with this guy named Bob Proctor, and I don't know if any of you guys have heard of him, but he's a personal development coach, and I met him through another model in the late 90s, and he got me to change my thought process, and actually I made the U.S. team because of a decision he made me make. And I'm going to show you this little video that's kind of cool that he put together. He came over, he sent somebody over my studio to make this, and I was like, this is my life story. This is cooler for me than it is for you guys to use. So it's kind of cool. Watch this. I was kind of at this point in my life where I'd spinning my wheels trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I bartended till like 4 a.m. I lived in a 5th floor walk up with my brother. I went to one of Bob's workshops, and he'd gotten to know me because I kind of was hanging around a little bit. And he knew I had trained for the Olympics, and he was doing a portion on decision making. And he said to me, "Where is that sailor guy?" And I was like, and he's like, "Stand up." And he said, "Why aren't you going for the Olympics?" And this was like beginning in '99. The Olympics were in 2000. I hadn't thought about going to the Olympics. I was like, I had been done. I missed the team. I was like, I'm not going to the Olympics. Well, Bob was doing a 2-day workshop, and this portion was on decision making. He said, "Look, I want you to go home, sleep on it, come back in the morning and tell us if you're going to go for the gold medal." I didn't sleep that night. I started thinking about, what am I doing? I'm bartending till 4 a.m. I'm like trying to make ends meet as a model actor dude. It's not working. I was like, I have this gift of sailing. I should go sail. I go back to the workshop the next day, and Bob says, "Where's Peter?" And I stand up. Bob had this guy who won the decathlon in 1956 named Milt Campbell next to him on stage. And Milt stood up and he said, "I'm going to coach you." I packed up my apartment in New York. I got on a plane. I rented a car out there. I shipped my boat. I got a van, threw my boat on top of it. I started sailing. And in 2000, I became a member of the United States Sailing Team, something I wouldn't have done if I hadn't made that decision. I finished the Olympics. I made the U.S. team, which was great. But when the sailing was over, I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to New York and be the model actor bartender dude? And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do it. And I decided to pick up a camera. It led into something huge, and it's been great. I'm now considered the premier headshot photographer in the world. And I just wrote a book called The Headshot, and I've been shooting headshots since about 2002. And I coach over 9,000 photographers on headshot photography worldwide. And I have photographers that are my associates in all areas of the globe. So it's been amazing. My purpose is to pull a human expression out of everybody that I shoot that's authentic, reactive, and based on trust. And that's what I try and do every day. I may be shooting their head, but I'm aiming for their heart. And if I can teach people how to behave in front of a camera and be better and capture an image that they're really proud of themselves, that's a huge deal. And that's what I do every day right here. So anyway, they put that together and I was blown away.
So Peter, that brings up the first question. What's the difference in your opinion between a portrait and a headshot?
Oh, I get that one all the time. A headshot is always a portrait. A portrait isn't always a headshot. I mean, a headshot is just a close-up portrait. However, there are headshots that sway more towards portraiture in terms of commercially viable headshots and capturing a vibe. Like in terms of expression. So some people will look at a picture. I think it's in my slideshow. I can give you an example. Commercially viable headshots, I think you need some approachability in them. I don't think portraits you do at all. I think you're trying to capture the essence of the human and at whatever stage of the game they're in at that moment. But for something for your personal brand, it's nice to capture some approachability in it. At least for me, and maybe we get into that a little bit. I call it confidence coupled with approachability. I think it's really important. And not necessarily, you don't really need that in portraiture, but you do need it in headshots. But just my general answer is a headshot is, I mean, I think a portrait is a picture of a person, and I think a headshot is a picture of a person. It's just closer than most portraits. So it's a close-up portrait. Anything else, Jaron?
No, we'll get to some questions here as you go along.
All right, let's see where I'm at. So this, you guys, if you, in the Bob and I became friends, and then he gave me this program called the Winner's Image. So I'm big on, it's basically a self-image program where you work on it and everybody gets it free as part of the headshot crew. So it's in our group, which is really cool. So I always talk about goal setting. I think I got to where I was in the Olympics with goal setting. I know I got to where I am in photography with goal setting. I know that once you accomplish a goal, you need a new goal. Otherwise, you're in a comfort zone, and it might feel good, but then eventually you're going to get really bored. So you got to consistently goal set. So I don't think you're sitting in this thing with me or doing all these great programs if you're not fired up about your photography, and you probably don't want to be average. I'm guessing. I did not want to be average when I started. There were probably, I don't know, 300, 400, at least 300 photographers advertising headshot photography in New York City. And I was just, all right, let's get going. But I was like, I'm going to go for the top. I'm not holding back anything. And then I think in 2002, so I picked up a camera in 2000, started shooting models for a couple years, got some commercial work. And then one of the models was like an actor and was like, I need a headshot. Can you do it? I'll move closer and you look into the camera, and they just looked in the camera so blank. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say to you? I didn't know. And that became my life's work, is really figuring out how to direct a subject. But I was like, I was not going to stop until I stood out from the crowd. And I think in 2005, I won Best Headshot Photographer in New York from Backstage Magazine. I forget what year it was. And then I won multiple years out of that. So you're sitting here, you're doing the work. Hopefully you have some goals and you're going to stand out from the crowd. I really have I know right now it's a little bit difficult because we can't even photograph people. And if you do, you're going to have to shoot them with the 200 millimeter on. But it's a little different time. But when we get out of this thing, people are going to be building their businesses and getting back on track. I'm already getting inquiries that like considerable number more than what I was getting, over the past couple months. So I believe that studying and working on yourself and having goals is what's going to make you stand out. So I talk about goals a lot. I think if you guys look at this, I think you know where these guys are going. They've got a goal. But if you take it away, they're just going to run around in a frenzy. It doesn't get them anywhere. So think about your current goals for yourself and what you want to do and figure them out. Make sure that the main thing about a goal is that you got to set a goal that fires you up. I mean, if it doesn't fire you up, you're just spinning wheels. So, make sure you do this. I wrote this goal card. I write my goals down. I wish I had a date on this, but I know I wrote it in like right around 2000, or I guess it must have been around 2002 because that's when I started shooting headshots. So the most I ever made as a model was like 50 grand. And model acting, bartending, everything included. And living in New York on that's really tough. So I was like, if I can pull off, bringing in 1,000 a week with photography, and still hopefully get some modeling and acting jobs, I'll be ahead of the game. And that was in 2002. Now I charge $1,000 for somebody to just walk in my door for a half hour for a headshot session. And that doesn't get them any pictures yet. So a guy I was shooting for GoDaddy, and their CMO got on stage and he started talking to his people, and he mentioned this thing about BHAGs. You guys know what a BHAG is? a big, hairy, audacious goal. So you got to have a big one that scares you. And I was like, so I was listening to him and I was like, this is cool. This guy's talking about this stuff. This is major. But then I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I got the big, scary, audacious goal, which back then for me was be the best headshot photographer in New York. That's all I really wanted. But along the way, I had to do little things. So little things that take you there. So I call them progress tracking attainable goals, or P tags, if you will. And they get you up the mountain, but you're not going to go straight. It's not a straight uphill climb, right? And sometimes you got to stop and look around, and then you got to reassess, or you got an obstacle in your way and you got to get out of your way. But you're on this constant trek, and it's like you're just constantly evolving. I evolved, and I like to say that my recipe for what I do is baked into this pie that you see here. It just works. I've just been, basically all I'm looking at is this headshot recipe. And I know I discovered it I started out with natural light in a southern facing window with my butt on a windowsill. And then I moved into a studio without windows, and that wasn't going to work. And I was like, what am I going to do? And then I found a photographer was shooting outside the studio I was in with some continuous light. And I was like, cause I couldn't deal with strobes at the time. I didn't know how to use them or how to, make it look right for what I wanted. And I put these continuous lights on my subject, and I loved it. And that was in 2004. So I've shoot basically the same setup since 2004. And I like to say it's my headshot recipe. So it's in my book. It's what I teach on the headshot crew. It's a recipe that works. It makes photographers all over the world a ton of money. It's awesome. But I'm constantly tweaking it. That pie's not baked yet. And what happens is I teach, my workshops and stuff. And there's people, I'm a little crazy. I'm a little outgoing. I know. And then people will get taught by me that are introverts or something. They'll be like, well, I would never do that, or I can't do that. And I always tell them, well, that's not part of the ingredients of your pie. Like, your pie looks totally different. If you've got let's say you shoot headshots now, that's your pie, and hopefully you're baking that too. But there are ingredients in my pie that are amazing. So you got to put them in yours, right? And if you had something in yours and you want to give it to me and I'll try it, I might spit it out. I call myself a student in the game. Like, I don't stop. I love getting better. I don't think photographers get to the end of their rope. I don't think you just be like, I've arrived. Now, I'm always trying to get better and trying to take a better picture and trying to figure out how to get what I want out of my subject and do something special for them. So when I teach, I try and tell people this, and it's essentially,
another thing
my friend John Keatley was on Creative Live, and he said this, and I loved it because I had this problem, because I was like, I'm this crazy person behind a camera, and all these people are coming to learn from me, and I don't want them to miss the message. I don't want them to miss out. The message is, you have to do it your own way. Like, it's not my techniques I can teach you. I can't teach you any other techniques. I can only teach what I do. So you have to take, what you can have. But listen to this.
Well, another thing I will tell you too is, especially as we start filming the photo shoots here, a good friend of mine, Peter Hurley, who many of you may know, he's been on Creative Live as well. If you ever watch him shoot, he's just a character. He's got so much energy, and he's like yelling and screaming and saying, inappropriate things, and just like, but he's hilarious, and it's like a party hanging out with Peter. And it's so easy, especially for me, to watch someone like that and be like, oh my gosh, I should do that, or like, oh, it works so well. The thing is, that's Peter being himself. He's not, if you go out with him and go to dinner or something, it's the same thing. He's not like maybe constant, but it's an extension of him on set. And so that's something that's really important to keep in mind. And as you watch anyone else create, is don't try to do what they do, but try to understand how they're being themselves, and then figure that out for you.
I thought that was so cool. So, and then I was teaching that, and this guy in Houston came up to me at lunch during a workshop, and he said, do you know the Bruce Lee quote? And I was like, what is it? He said, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add specifically what's your own. Nobody can get a picture like you. Like, you can't, like, I can't shoot like you. You can't shoot like the person next to you. I know, because I do these workshops and I set up the same lighting. I get the same models in. I plop them in front of the lights. And the second I watch the model, I watch the energy of the model and their demeanor. When the next photographer jumps in and starts directing them and compare it to the one before. And it totally changes the energy of the human. And as a portrait artist, that's what it is. Like, that's it. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen John Keatley and you don't follow him on Instagram, he's doing amazing stuff. He's doing amazing stuff with the iPhone, like through FaceTime, like portraits. And he shot me. And it was just cool being in front of his camera, even though it wasn't my iPhone. It was just cool. It was just cool. So follow him, John Keatley. He's a great guy and a really good friend and an amazing artist. All right. So having confidence in your pie is contagious. Like, the thing is that, so everything that I try to do and convey to other photographers is, when you stand behind your camera, when you put your camera up to your eye and you point it at somebody, you need to be confident in what you do and what you produce, because that person will feel it. And when they feel it, the imagery just starts to happen. I have no other, over the course of my career, I mean, if I look back at shoots, you know, when I was younger to now, the confidence has gone up tremendously because of the amount of people I've photographed, I guess, and the time spent working on this. Like, the more time you spend working on it, the more confidence you have, the more people, you know, get fired up about it. So there's this confidence wheel that I love. I love this. So the more confidence you have, the more comfort you have, which creates confidence, which gives you control. And that's the thing that you can't put your finger on. Like, people always ask me, the number one question I get, and I don't know if anybody has thought this in their brain, is, how do you get your subject to relax? And the answer is simple, but it's not easy. It's get them to forget about the camera. How do you get them to forget about the camera? You're confident and you're directing them, and you're not talking about the camera or anything, or you've got their brain so wired on other things that they don't even think about the camera. If you can get them to stop thinking about the camera, you've done something special. And I'm going to give you some techniques that I use to do that. But this is really it. So the more confident of a photographer you are, the more competence you have, the more comfort you're going to have, not only you, your subject. And that gives you more control. It's amazing. It's such a concept. It's my favorite, one of my favorite concepts. But you got to build a roadmap for yourself and for your shoot. I mean, basically, people, you know, for me, I would say I have an agenda when people walk in, and I start to go to work, and I think about it. I want a certain outcome. I don't know the person normally. Most people coming in, I've never worked with. Maybe I'm going to a CEO that I've never worked with, and they've got a team of people and handlers that I got to get around and stuff. And I've got to have all my ducks in a row so I can get these shots out to the best of my ability. And in order to do that, you have to have a plan. There has to be some sort of, you know, idea of where you're going. And as soon as you get there and you get started, it's like putting a puzzle together. Each person for me is a different puzzle, and some pieces aren't going to fit, right? Sometimes I blow it. Sometimes it's a personality issue. Like I really have a hard time with people who don't really love their appearance. And I know that for most people, it's, you know, tough to really like your appearance or admit that you like your appearance. And it's like ripping the Band-Aid off when you put them in front of the camera. But when someone doesn't like looking at themselves, because I shoot tethered and I show them everything, it becomes really difficult. I want them to like the work that we're doing and feel like we're getting somewhere. But some people, I did this TEDx talk. You can look that up. It's called Bridging the Self-Acceptance Gap. And I did it at MIT, and which was so cool. It was just cool to be asked. But it was exactly that. Like I was shooting Miss Universe, and her husband, I was shooting a magazine cover. She'd gotten married. She was no longer Miss Universe. She had a husband. And he was across the room, and she said to him, I was showing her the tether, and she goes, "Honey, I can't stand my face." And I was like, Miss Universe just told me she couldn't stand her face. I was like, if Miss Universe can't stand her face, I shot 2 Miss Universe. The other one was like, same thing, was like, I didn't even know I was pretty, and they thrust her into this thing and she wins Miss Universe. I'm really good friends with that one. So we were thinking about doing a talk about this. So when somebody gets in front of my camera, and it's like this puzzle you're putting together. And if you can, one of my like my missions in this, And my purpose is to have somebody shoot with me and have a skip in their step when they walk out, or just feel like they feel better about themselves for having been in front of my camera. That's cool. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. And I think it's important. I think that, well, you just watch the TEDx talk, because I did it with the psychologist, and she talks about we live in a fault-based society, so we see our faults first. So I never had somebody walk in and go, Peter, this is your lucky day. My hair is flawless. My skin is flawless. My hair is perfect, whatever. I'm just radiating beauty left, right, and center. And I've been like, great, get in front of the camera. It never would happen. It's always, and you guys have had this. It's always like, oh my gosh, I should have postponed this. I didn't lose the 10 pounds, I just had a terrible time getting over here. And I didn't get any sleep last night. I got these bags under my eyes. That's all you hear. Right. So I wonder when it happened, because I shoot kids a lot too sometimes. I mean, not as much lately as I did earlier in my career, but I used to shoot for this kids agency. I never had a 10-year-old come in and go, Peter, I wish I lost the 10 pounds before we did this, So I don't know when this happens, but it's sometime in adolescence where we start to concern ourselves with that. So I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to pause for a second, then I'm going to tell this story. Do we have any questions?
Peter, I think that you're coming right to the heart of what a lot of our photographers have always asked is, we at universities, we spend a lot of time photographing the chemistry professor in his 60s. That guy never likes how he looks. And that's what we're trying to do, is how can we be more confident and help them be more confident?
Yeah. What's cool is having a good product. I know with my lighting setup, when I put somebody in it, that I'm going to take one picture before I even direct their face. I know it's going to be one of the coolest pictures they've ever had of themselves. It's just like, it's such a dialed in setup. So it just makes my job that much easier. But then getting around the personality is a whole nother ball of wax. So it depends on the person. Yeah, you definitely have to figure out a way to make a connection there.
Are there ever times where you don't show them the pictures as you're shooting it because it's detrimental?
No, humans have the capacity to learn. So if you show them the pictures, they'll actually go, oh, my face is doing that. I think this comes up further along, but my favorite thing that I've discovered in the last 20 years of shooting is that your brain will try to tell you what your face looks like, but it doesn't know. So what happens is people look in a camera and their brain's telling their face is doing one thing, but it's doing another. And it's obviously doing another, because they wouldn't look in there like that if they knew that that's what it looked like. So we have to basically tell them what their face is doing, and that's easier said than done. So, but that's
help them see that progression as they're getting better and better, right?
So the thing is the tether helps them with that, because then they actually believe it. Like when I shot film, I had to just blow smoke up their butt. It's like I just had to say, you're doing great, and maybe I took a Polaroid and ripped it and showed them a frame. But with digital, it's like, all right. I mean, you have to show them, first of all, if your technically, if your pictures suck, like your lighting's not good or something, don't tether. Don't show them bad stuff. Make sure you got it nailed down before you got to realize what you're showing them. It's not easy to see for some people to look at themselves. I mean, I've already hit a couple points here. Just reflect for yourself on what your favorite picture is ever taken of you, and what your relationship is with your appearance. We didn't pick our parents. We got stuffed into this planet, just got thrown in the mix. And then we got to walk around in this body of ours till we leave here. So everybody handles it differently, but think about it for you, and then think about it for your clients. And I've shot everybody on every end of the spectrum, but it's not easy sometimes. It's really the moment that I show the tether and listen to the next words out of their mouth, or when I hear oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm like, oh geez. I was like, here we go. And when I hear, I can't look at that. I'm like, oh, here we go. And, I didn't get better because of the easy ones.
Yeah. And Peter, I love that advice that you need to be 100% confident in your product. And maybe that's some of our problems, is we need to make sure that our lighting, our setup, our backdrop, our technique, we want to make sure that that's ready for people so that we can focus on them.
That and you're done. Be repetitive. I can't coach photographers who show me different work on when we're trying to focus in on a headshot look for themselves. I can't do it. How is a client gonna if I can't coach you, how's a client gonna know what they're gonna get from you? Like, you nail down a look. Like, there should be a look that's better than anything else that you do, and that's the one you stick with, and then you tweak it as you go a little bit. I mean, I barely tweak mine. I mean, it really, I don't know, you know, I get to this point where I'm like, it's always, it works. It gets the job done.
So one quick question from Courtney. What's the minimum amount of time you like to spend with a client for a headshot?
Oh, it's so funny. So I have such a different perspective now. I think it's just like I got older, got better. I think maybe I turned 50 and I care less, give a shit less or whatever. I mean, I'm just like, whatever. When I was shooting, I shot all actors and corporate people. I just didn't really get that much. But I would not shoot an actor for less than an hour. There would be no way. I'd be like, I can't warm you up. It takes me an hour sometimes to warm somebody up. That was back then. I started shooting corporate. I was like, well, I don't have an hour with these people. What am I going to do? And then I started missing the shots. Like, the person would leave, and, you know, I'd get, like, with a CEO or something, you get like 20 minutes if you're lucky. I had a CEO. I was shooting the CEO at Deloitte, and they were like, okay, we're all set up. It was like a rigmarole just to get in there. They jammed me into this tiny room with a conference table that I had to put my lights around. I put the tripod on one end. I have a shot of that. I'll show you. And I put the lights around the conference table, and they said, you have about 20 minutes. And I took 3 shots in 1 minute, I think 3 or 4 frames. And I coached my subject. So I brought her out, and I said, look, and I was just trying to coach her. I said, I want you to see what we're getting. And here's this shot, this shot, this shot. I get to this one shot. And I was like, oh no, I just showed her one, I think. And I said, this is basically the gist of it. And she looks at it and she goes, oh yeah, that's the best picture I've ever seen of myself. Thank you very much. And she walks away. And I'm serious. She left. And I was like going, and I was like this. I was like, oh my gosh, it is pretty good. And that was it. She left, and it was $6,000. I was like, I'll take it. I was like, it was in a minute. It was in a minute. I mean, I had to shoot some portraits later on a roof with her, but, and that she didn't run away from that. But this one, I was like, oh my gosh, that was the craziest story I've ever, and most enjoyable, because the shots still really, I mean, I would have tweaked it. I'm a perfectionist. I would have definitely tweaked it with her, but it was really good. So, and it was a big time CEO. So it was cool.
So Peter, that's one of the questions that several people have asked that is oftentimes we're tasked to shoot an entire department of 15 or 20 people in an hour. Is there any way that we can do that more effectively? I understand taking more time would be better. Do you have any suggestions for us?
Yeah, you just have to do it often and do it really well. I started doing this thing I called it one-shot deals. Well, this is what I started doing. I was tethering, right? So the client would come in, and they give you, whenever anybody gets in front of the camera, they normally give you this one expression. I call it NEFA face. I use acronyms. It's called non-existent facial activity. So the face just goes to rest and the eyes widen, and they just look freaked out. So I would take that picture. And I took it because I wanted it at the front of the session. And then I'd start shooting them. I'd warm them up, and we get done with the first look. And I always would leave them in there until I got enough shots that I feel like I got some good ones in here. They're warmed up. Let me bring them out and show them. And I'd show them, and I'd go back to the first one. I see how blank you are. See this, and see where we went, just so that they would learn that way. And what I realized was that that was like a crutch for me. Why was I doing that? I didn't have to do that. So now I do this thing. So I was on stage at an event somewhere, and people at trade shows asked me to shoot, and I'm like, I think it's an event to get in front of my camera. Like, I make a big deal out of it. I don't like to shoot people that ask me out of the blue. I mean, it's like, normally to come in here, you know, it's at least $1,000. So I'm not very willy-nilly about just shooting anybody. But I was like, all right, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. It's a one-shot deal. I'm going to hit the shutter once with you and you and you and these 3 people. And I got them up there, and I did it. And it was amazing because I was putting pressure on myself, but I pulled it off. So now I do it with every one of my clients. So I don't press the shutter until I see exactly what I want, and I coach them up to it. And because of the way that I do it and the training that I've had, I can get them exactly where I need very rapidly. And I hit the button, and I'm tethered, and I do it all the time. I had an actor come in. He had this is a crazy story. I keep track. When people email, I always keep the email. So this guy had emailed me in like 2015, then he emailed me in 2018. No, it was in 2018 when he came in. I think this was a couple years ago. In 2015, he was going to come in, but he was emailing me and he found out how much expensive it was, and he decided not to. So in 2018, he said, I came in because I got a tax return and it was the same amount as your headshot. So I wanted to come in and do it. So I did the one-shot deal with him, and he looked at the thing, and he just started bawling right off the bat after I took the cat. He's like, I waited 3 years. I could have been on more auditions and had more stuff. I've been using this. I could have had that in 10 seconds if I had just come in here. So now I do that with everybody. So we're doing this 10,000 headshots thing, and I have to shoot 50 people in a day. And I'm not concerned about me. I mean, I think 50 in a day is a lot, but I'm concerned about all the other photographers to be able to give, to get a good expression out of somebody, to make sure you're seeing everything. I like to say this. I would say, and everybody's in a different spot with that. And I have this in another presentation, but I don't know if I can get it rather fast. So I'll just tell the story. Imagine you're living in the woods or something, and it was the rainy night or something, and you go out to your car and you open the door and you get in, and the thing's all fogged up and you got to turn on the defroster. It's a snowy night and there's snow all over it, and you got to, take the ice and scrape the ice off, and you open up like a window like this, and you can see through it, and you start driving, and as the defroster or whatever starts to defrost everything, you start to see more and more and more and more and more. Well, what happened with me was that it was like that. At the beginning of my career, I realized I wasn't seeing as much. And now when I look in the frame, I see everything. Like, it's very clear. I'm actually hyper-focused when I'm shooting. So I see so much more than what other people are seeing. And I know because, I just coach the photographers on it. I'm like, you didn't see that? Because we're doing live photo critiques every week, 3 days. I'm on live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays coaching through Headshot Crew. So, but anyway, as that happens for each photographer, it's different. You guys, you may be a landscape artist and you already have that. You're walking by this scene and you're like, I'm going to rip this thing apart as soon as the sun hits X o'clock, and I got the angle and I got the light, and this is perfect over here, and you whip it all together. I'll walk by there and I wouldn't even see it at all, let alone be like, that's a cool thing to shoot. I just don't see that way. But with the human face, and when you're 3 feet from them and I got a 100mm macro on them or whatever, I see everything in the frame. So it's just different for different specialties. And the more that you photograph somebody in that same fashion, you're gonna the frost is gonna go, or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say here, the analogy. But and then you're gonna become clear, and it's gonna all open up for you, and you'll see a million things that you don't see right now, that you don't realize till after you take the shot. And you're like, oh yeah, that hair was out of place. Oh yeah, I missed the collar was like this on the person, and I didn't see that, or whatever. But that all becomes clear the more that you specialize on a specialty. If you guys, each one of you may have a specialty or your favorite thing to shoot. Mine happens to be headshots, so it's just that it's that focused.
I think that's awesome, Peter. I think people are really excited to learn more about your directions when we get to your pictures.
All right,
what directions you're giving those clients.
Let me keep going. Where were we? All right, we're doing the puzzle piece. All right, so I got to shoot this. Let me see if this is. So let's watch this. I shot. If any of you guys saw the show Lost, they did. They were ending the season, and I got to go shoot the cast and crew. It was my favorite job ever. You go to Hawaii and shoot a bunch of people, and then do an exhibition in New York City. So the set director on the set was came in on his day off just to shoot with me because I had to leave. Unfortunately, they wanted me to stay, and I had to come back for another. I had the 2 biggest jobs that year in the same week. I was so bummed, but now to this day, they're both 2 of my biggest jobs I've ever done. But this one was huge. So the set director came in, and I hated the angle I was shooting on. I hated it. And my demeanor was horrible. It was like just really bad. And if you look, I'm shooting him. He put all these sets up behind himself, and I wanted to shoot his desk, and he was a set design. I mean, he was just an amazing guy. And I had him sit down, and he had a little, excess stuff in the belly, and I just didn't like what I saw. So watch this. So I was frustrated.
Zach setting up to shoot Zach. Got the camera here, and doing it. We're in Zach's office. He designs all the sets.
I look much younger. I think this 2010, maybe? I'm guessing. Anyway, so see, that's what the shot I was taking. I was really frustrated. I hated it. So, and I was having trouble with my energy not showing that. I just don't, I'm just not, I was just frustrated. So if you look to the left of the frame, you can see daylight coming through. So I was like, wait a minute, there was a door over there. I was like, open that door, turn this way, I'm going to jam I was jammed into the corner of the door to get this shot. And I got so excited looking at the tethered capture that I can see, I didn't even direct I don't think I even directed him. You can see the look on his face. This ended up being the shot that we ran all over the place. And you can see the expression. So what I got so excited about, I used the daylight, and then I used those lights on his drafting table to give him a key and a kick. And I was like, this is my lighting. This is awesome. And I was freaking out. And you can see how chill he looks. He looks much better in this position. I like my portraits to be a little messy so the eye wanders. So like, you can see, like, I didn't even notice he was standing on the extension cord, which I think is cool now, but I probably would have told him to, hey, step off the cord then if I had noticed, but I like it. And like the glue tilting up and like all his stuff. Anyway, I loved it. And I think it happened because of my excitement. I think that if you're not excited about your work and what you're accomplishing, and I don't mean you don't need to jump around like a maniac, but there needs to be some positive stuff going on with you that you're excited about the progress you're making in your work, because they'll get that. And then you have to do a lot less with direction, which is pretty huge. So I just felt like, I do this thing called the Headshot Intensive Workshop. And on the third, if somebody stays an extra day, I do it. It's called the Headshot Intensified. In that, the photographer photographs me. So I use my acting chops, and I act like I'm a, Joe the plumber coming in for a headshot session, and I act like I'm walking into their studio, and they're supposed to treat me like that. And then I stay in character as long as I can until they really frustrate me. And then I become Peter, and I tell them everything that I thought went wrong, or coach them however they need to. But the number one thing that I don't get is positive reinforcement, is like feedback. So they'll be shooting and they won't tell me how I'm doing. They'll just keep shooting and turning me and not get excited about their work, or not show me anything and not tell me, hey, that was great. That's good. Let's try this. No, it's just like shooting. Okay, turn. Okay, great, turn. You've got to create some sort of rapport between you and your subject, and you're actually co-creating with them. So that's really what it's about. And if you don't think you are, then you're not a portrait photographer. Maybe you're shooting documentaries or something, like you're out on the street shooting somebody walking by and you're not directing. That's fine. I shot the Clintons, and the shot got published in a magazine, and people always ask me who the most famous people I shot. And I was like, I just don't feel like I shot the Clintons. Every other photographer next to me, during New Year's Eve, the ball was dropping. I was next to him on stage, and I had a little camera, and I shot it. And there were a bunch of photographers around shooting them, getting the same shot. I was like, I didn't direct them. I don't feel worthy of saying that I shot the Clintons. I always cringe when I say that. I feel like I need to direct. It's like my thing. Where are we going here? So this is a group portrait that I shot of a bunch of actors. And I always tell people, if you can shoot headshots or just individual portraits of people before you put them in a group, it's so much more beneficial. So I set this shot up because of everybody's facial features and structure, and where I wanted them to sit and where I thought they should be. And because I had already shot all of them, I knew that all their names, they had already been directed by me, so they understood how I was going to use my hands and tell them to move their face and get in the positions they were in. And they already had a rapport with me built. So just think about that. If you ever have to shoot a group shot, do that. I usually talk about the lighting in this, but we'll just keep going, I guess, unless people are interested in that. But let's see where else I'm going here. So the other thing, so this is it. So I shoot the headshots first every time somebody comes in. So this is Jamie. She's if you recognize her, she's a commentator for the NFL. She's on CBS, I think. She's super cool, and she was great. So she came in for just a bunch of stuff. So this is the move that I have people do when they're holding their sub. I usually don't have them doing it when they're that far away, but I have this video, hold your sub. So if you want to watch that, you can. But I'll take shots where I'll get up close and personal first, direct them so that when I'm further, you have less connection with the person when you're further away from them. The distance that I am from my subjects in taking headshots is specific, very specific. I was joking about the 200 millimeter before, and I was seriously joking. Like, the further away you are, it's not good. And being too close for comfort isn't good either. I'm usually about 92 millimeters on a 70 to 200 when I shoot a 70 to 200. I also have the 85, the Canon 85, the new one, the RF 85 DS, which is awesome. So those are the ones that I'm using most of the time. Same here. This is Jack, Christy Brinkley's son. He's a really nice guy. But I love doing this stuff. So I'll do the headshots, and then I'll move back. This is Michael. He's one of the most amazing dancers I've ever seen, and the second most amazing dancer that I photographed. I photographed Barishnikov, but this guy's unbelievable. And, you know, again, I shot the headshots, and then we had some fun and did some other stuff. So if you are thinking about it, like if you want to break ice and you have a certain technique down of what you might want to teach the person to perform better in front of your camera, then shoot some close-ups first, and then let them start to loosen up. This guy's an architect, Bernardo, and he's in Mexico, and his work is amazing. Bernardo Pozas. So he came up from Mexico. He was going to have me go down there and do his team, and then we got this. So you know, you do the ones that you know you feel like once you have a rapport, you can go out on tangents more and mix things up. Any questions that popped up?
Yeah, this is a good time to talk about a few questions. Let me pull it up. Anybody have a question they'd like to ask Peter? Oh, here's one, Matt Kishore. Matt, why don't you unmute yourself and ask the question?
All right. Thank you, Peter. You're my number one on my symposium wish list for several years now, so it's great to have you, even if it's virtual. I'm in our headshot studio as I speak, and when people come in and they have a complaint about their headshot, usually they don't say what it is. Usually it's because they think they look, you know, in my words, too old or too fat, and they're just not happy with, they don't look like they did when they're 25. But when they do have a complaint, it's almost always, I look like I'm squinting. And I know you often reference the squinch. So how do you find the balance between a squinch and a squint?
Well, maybe they are squinting. You got to be careful. It's a fine line. It's a really fine line. The thing is that, well, I'll just do it for you a little bit if I'm close enough to this camera. If I'm close enough to this camera, we can do it. The thing is that you have to realize that squinching people normally do in everyday life. We squint because the sun's too bright, or, you know, something's hitting us in our eyes or whatever. But we squinch normally in conversation and everything and everything. So I'll take off my glasses to try and give you this and keep this near me. All right. So when people get in front of a camera, I don't know if you can see my eyes well enough, but this, to me, the way my eyes are now, they look relaxed. So this would be actually a squinch compared to what people do when they get in front of a camera. When humans are unsure or uncertain, you know, we have this deer in the headlights thing, our eyes just widen. So what happens is we look like this. So I don't talk to people like this. This is weird. My eyes are normally like this, which is not a very big difference, but it's a huge difference in what the onlooker gets. So, and it's the whites of the eyes that matter the most. So what happens is when you ask somebody to squint or squinch, I mean, I said squint forever until I came up with the word squinch. What they're doing is they're narrowing the distance. They're closing their eyes down. And what happens is they'll get heavy lids. And if they have heavy lids, they will look squinty, which will not be good. But if they squinch properly, the definition that I gave to squinching is narrowing the distance between your lower eyelid and your pupil, which means the lower lids are coming up, but the top lids are not moving at all, or maybe a little bit, but they're not coming down that far. So they won't look as squinchy. And this is not ethnicity based. This is like shape of the eye. And actually, it's more based on what you get from the image when you look at it. So you have to get better at looking at your images and say, you know, look at the vibe you're getting from the person. That's really what it's about. If the vibe is that the person just looks weird because their eyes are too closed, that's not it either. I mean, my eyes disappear when I crack up. So we have an orbicularis oculi, which is a muscle that goes around the eye, and the palpebral ligament goes underneath the eye, and it closes it down, and that creates the squinch. The thing is that they discovered that real smiles have to be squinchy, like they have to use that orbicularis oculi. So if somebody smiles, and photographers did this for years, they would say smile, and people would be like this, but then they're not squinchy and it's fake. Or they'd be like, well, wait a minute, you're smiling, but your eyes are closing, open them up, and then they look eager. So it's really strange. So watch the squinch. I don't know how close is my camera focusing on, but anyway, so if this is wide-eyed, this would be a little strange to photograph. I'm just kind of staring at, this is Nepha face. That's the way people look in the camera usually. And this is squinching, going from here to there. It's really tiny. So see my lower lids are, now you guys got to practice this too. Like if you can't squinch, how the heck are you going to ask somebody to do it? Like you have to be able to do it too. So it's like this. So it's just confidence. Confidence comes from the eye. If you want confident looking pictures, which I think everybody in their headshot, you want to make them look confident, they're going to have to squinch generally. And
I think that you're right that the fine line is the hard thing to do. But the last thing we heard you say was the best thing to do is practice yourself, because you can't teach it unless you can't practice.
Oh, that was the last thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, I think you have to develop an eye to look at your images and look at people and understand what they're conveying to you. Like when you look at the pictures you take, think about what that person's thinking. And is that what you want them to convey to other people looking at that image? And that's really what it is. So if they're squinty, it's not conveying what you're trying to get across. If you're making them squint or squinch or whatever you want to call it for yourself, hopefully you call it a squinch, you're doing it to create confidence as the person looks at the picture. So if you're not creating that, then you did something wrong. And it's usually they're over squinting, or their lids are too heavy, or their eyes are gone and they're not, you're not getting enough of that. But it's like a pressure. If your eyes wide and your eyes feel like they're going into the back of your head, and what you want to do is like push your eyeballs forward to create the squinch. So that's really kind of what it is. And it can get very squinty very quick. And I'll tell the story. I think, is everybody back in, or we're still?
Yeah, we're at 124. We're good. You go ahead.
So I'll tell a story. I had a assistant come in, and she'd been with me for like 3 weeks. And one day we came in, we started shooting, and I was like halfway through a session, or like way into the session. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what's wrong?" She goes, "Well, I mean, you've never had a session since I've been here where you haven't told the person to squinch." And I was like, "Well, the person's already squinching. Why would I tell somebody to squinch that's already squinchy? I wouldn't do that. That's going to screw them up." So you want the person natural, so if somebody's already doing it, I'm only doing it to convey confidence. If they're already confident in there and I'm seeing it, I'm not going to ask them to do it. And I think photographers get stuck on it, and then they overdo it. And then it can be too much at times. It's a very fine line.
One of the questions we had before we cut out was, what do you do before the client comes to your studio? Do you give them instructions on shaving, or on moisturizing, or on outfits to bring? What do you do to prepare them for this photo shoot?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way I look at it is, I'm shooting headshots. So if I do portraits, they have to bring a ton of outfits. But if I'm shooting headshots, they just need to bring tops, different variety. But the way that I look at it is that I don't know what their taste is coming in, and I'm always shooting for myself. I'm always thinking about my portfolio and like what I'm going to do with the pictures. I want to do my best for my subject, but I want to get something really good out of it. So I have a taste and a style in my work that has a lot to do with styling of the clothes. So I have them overpack everything. Like I'm like 10 to 15 tops, and I usually shoot 5, 6, 7, or 8 or something. But if they bring 10 to 15, chances are that there's going to be one in there that I'd be happy with in my portfolio. So I used to be specific about don't bring busy stuff, don't do this, don't do that. And now I'm just like, no, if you love it, you bring it, because I want to see it. And then I want to decide, like I'm shooting different backgrounds. I want to layer stuff up on different backgrounds. So stuff like that. With guys, I usually say, if you have scruff and you want to come in and shave in between, you can. That's fine. We usually always do makeup on women. We have women come in with their hair shoot ready. Like they can't just roll out of bed and come in here. Now my makeup artist is going to do their hair, but you got to protect yourself. You can't have somebody come in and expect to get their hair and makeup done and then complain about it and need a reshoot. So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Another question is what do you, it's so much about confidence. What do you tell yourself when things are going bad? How do you salvage that shoot?
You try everything under the sun. I mean, I've had, usually if you are backed up against a wall, if your base is good, like you can take good pictures and you're really good with your technique, you'll get through it just fine. A lot of times it's not you. Like, it's just not. Like sometimes, like like I said before, I always learn from the hard ones. I had this author that came in and she told me specifically she didn't want anybody in the shoot. And I was like, so I split the studio in half with some V flats, and I went in there and I was shooting, and the art director, who's the art director, like came in, and I was like, and I was like, I'm not gonna, of course the art director has to be in here, right? It did not go well. Like the art director shouldn't have even been in there. I mean, this woman was totally freaked out. And then and then the shoot was going so bad, and then she's like, I need my husband. So she called him, and then he came over to try and console her and get her going. And this was before I wonder how I would do with her today. I guess I'm a different person, but I really learned something with that, because I was for a big client and it was a big author, and they called me and they said she didn't like any of the pictures. They're going to use the one of her old ones for this new book. And I was devastated. They paid me, but I was like devastated. And I was like, this is a major fail, and then I lost the client. I got the client back years later, but clients are fussy. Like they'll understand, maybe they cut me a break for that one, or another thing happened where I got brought back in. But it's just tough. It's tough. And the one thing that we have going for ourselves is, well, I'll tell you another story. I won't tell you who it was, but I was shooting a celebrity, and the guy wouldn't take any of my direction. Like was nasty to me, kind of, and it was really hard on me, and I was up against the wall, and it was a big, huge one. It was my biggest job of the year for one day, and it was shot while they were shooting a commercial, and I was supposed to shoot the stills for the ad in between the commercial. But I don't think this celebrity got the memo. I think that they were just like, he's not wanting to be photographed in between takes. And they told me, you've got to shoot the campaign in between takes, because we can't hire this guy for 2 days. We have to do it in one. I was like, okay. So every time I took the camera, he was trying to take a break, and he just got pissed. So immediately he snapped at me with my direction. I couldn't direct. I don't think it was his fault. I think it was the fact that he didn't know that I was doing what I was, that I was shooting the campaign, because they didn't want to hire him for another day. So when that happens, when they're not coachable, there's a couple things that are going to happen. One, you're going to lose quality because you can't direct. I just was losing quality left, right, and center. My number one thing is jawline. If I can't tell the person to get the jawline out, I'm going to lose quality. So what do I have to do? I have to overshoot it. So I overshot it, right? Like crazy. So now I'm wasting frames trying to hope something jumps into the camera. And luckily the client needed 12 images. I shot 3,000, and they got 12 that they loved. But it was, you just overshoot and you hope for something jumps in there. It was tough.
So Peter, if you were to have that author come into your studio tomorrow, what would you do differently?
I guess I would. I mean, I'm a different person now than then. That was probably 2000. I don't know when that was. I should look. It was definitely prior to 2010. So the thing that I think has affected my work the most is, and this is kind of the hocus pocus stuff, is that I read people better. You know, I just had like there's an intuitive thing that you guys will get as you shoot more people, where you intuitively know, okay, this person's on a power trip and I've got to give them the power. This person's really needy and I've got to really lift them up and coach them. This person is somebody who isn't secure of themselves at all, but they are acting like they know what they're doing when they really don't. So I've really got to kind of kick them in the butt and whip them around and get them onto my side. So it's like that. And I didn't do that back then. Like it was like a recipe. Everybody was the same. Like I didn't know what to do. And now I'm more in tune with like intuitively what human beings are all different. We all act differently. So of course we're going to behave differently. And then it's this idea that I think I kind of stepped out of the way. I was very, I guess I was more aggressive in my picture taking back then, where I would get what I wanted, and my makeup artist would be like, we'd play like good cop, bad cop. Like, and I'd do it with him when he was pissed about them not liking makeup, and I'd be like the good cop. But most of the time he'd be like, look, he just wants you to do this. He's like, not, you know, because I was the bad cop. So it's interesting. It really is an interesting thing working with the other thing that I talk about a lot too is when you're taking a headshot of somebody, they're the end client. You know, when I'm doing a commercial job, usually a model's hired or something. Not in this case, the author was the author, and it was for their book. But usually, like the, you know, or the celebrity I was shooting was the talent on the set, but was a little different because it was a big time person. But I guess when you have a model on the set, they're getting paid by the person to do what you say. So it's a totally different dynamic than the person who's actually forking out the dollars to pay you that you're working with. And that's a big difference. It's also different when you shoot, you know, if you have to shoot, you know, a staff at a school, like the amount of pressure on it it's just different. Like the people probably aren't paying, and they're just probably more concerned with the way they look. And some people probably want to get it over with, and then other people they'll spend an hour getting themselves all dolled up for it, and then they'll come in and they'll be more high strung than the person's like, can we just get this over with? I got to go work. I got to go get something done. So you have to read each person differently and then adjust your direction to them. It's essentially people skills. I mean, think about, you know, your people skills in general. You know, you got to have a certain skills in that department to be able to pull this off properly, like with everybody. And there's just some people that maybe your personalities just don't mesh, and that's going to happen. And you try and get through it best you can. Because a lot of times I'm like, there's only so far I'll go. Sometimes if somebody's just, you know, being really bossy and a pain and not really liking their pictures, I just, you know, I'm just like, okay, I'll look through the shoot and be like, as long as I'm happy, I'm like, okay, I love these 5 shots. I got it. And then I just go and I just press the button and okay, go change. Yeah. Press the button. Okay. Those are great. Let's let this person go, get them out of here and go on our merry way. I mean, it's rare, and I try not to ever be like that. You know, but I'm not gonna, you know, people might have issues with their appearance that happened when Johnny in the 6th grade told them they had a big nose, and now I'm like shooting it and they're still thinking about that. I'm not going to get through that. There's no, you know, I'm just not going to get through it. I think when I opened my Twitter account, I said 90% therapist, 10% photographer. I did. I think in 2009, I think I got a Twitter and I put in the bio 90% therapist, 10% photographer. It's kind of what it is.
Awesome. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Jason. Any advice or approach when you don't have a stylist or a client comes in unprepared for a headshot, unkempt hair, wrinkly shirt, no makeup? What do you do to prepare the subject in the middle of the shoot? How do you deal with stray hair?
Well, first off, I love this quote by Bill Gove. It's called "Professionals are at their best regardless." So I always take it professionally, but then I understand that it's my work. So I'm like, if they come in, I had this one woman come in that like went tanning the weekend before, and she was like red as a beet. And I was like, this is not happening. Like, this is not happening today. You are not shooting today. We are not doing this. I'm going to reschedule you. And I rescheduled her. I was like, I just can't, don't just tell me when this goes away and we'll get it done right. You know, I had one that didn't get my makeup artist because they were cheap, and she came in, I just couldn't, I shot some frames and I was like, the makeup's just, and the hair is so bad, I can't do anything with it. Generally, I have somebody here. If I don't, like on a corporate job, you're not going to have that. So you have to do your best with what you've got. People always ask me, and I don't know what's going to happen now with COVID and everything, but, you know, do you touch people? I'm like, they can't see their hair and they can't see their clothes. I got to dive in. I got to fix that stuff. I have to, you know, so, you know, you got to do your best with what you've got. Now I've got a little bit of product here and stuff, but I'm not going to charge somebody the rates that I charge to shoot inferior pictures because, you know, they didn't come in looking good, you know? So I'd rather be like, look, I want you to just go, let's reschedule this. Fine. I mean, normally, like back in the day, I only had one source of income, and that was pressing the button, and it would bug me that I might have to reschedule somebody. But now I'm so busy with so much other stuff. I'm like, look, I'd much rather do this on another, I got plenty of stuff to do. Just go, we'll schedule it another day.
Peter, before you cut out, you showed a group shot, and actually people are very interested in your lighting because group shots is something we do a lot of.
Oh, okay. I'll bring it back up. One of the things that, yeah, where is that shot? Okay, got it. One of the things, let me do the screen share. Did you co-host me? I'm good.
Yeah, you're a co-host.
Okay. So one of the things that I think is really important is being able to, obviously light is huge. So I don't know, but press your space bar and tell me how I lit this. Guess. Somebody knows. Everybody should. I mean,
Come on, guys, jump in.
Big soft light from the left.
Soft light from the left.
Big, very big soft light from the left,
Big
or a
soft
bunch of
light.
medium-sized stuff.
Big yeah, I'm going to say a large softbox.
Large big glass window.
Perhaps a big window.
Yeah. All right, that's enough. That's good. You guys are good. So what happened was, it's a restaurant. I guess it looks like a restaurant, right? And the windows were to the left of the frame, but they were like the tiniest little windows that you ever saw. Like, no, it was like a basement in there. It was really dark. So I was like, all right, I got to light this thing up. So I took a 12 by 12 scrim and I put it up right where the door and the windows are. And I put a bunch of umbrellas behind it and shot through the scrim. So it was huge. And it came out looking like this. And I wanted to, you know, but my goal was to make it look like there were big windows from the restaurant and it was natural light. So I figured I did a pretty good job with that. I was pretty proud of that. But it worked, you know, and I got, it was, I would say there were probably 5 strobes in there. I shoot pro photo when I shoot strobes, and I usually use either Photex soft lighters or I got the Umbrella Deep from Pro Photo. One of my favorite modifier that I have in the studio that I usually don't bring out, and I didn't bring it to this, was I have a Broncolor Para that I actually shoot the pro photos into, but I love it. So
they're asking, is there any feel on camera right?
None. So that's really important, that I think a lot of photographers miss, is shadow density when you're going for shadows. And I obviously the wall, I don't remember the color of the walls camera right. That can you see a wall over there? You can't. This is in my way on here. But I'm guessing they were like either green or cream, like behind them. So there must have been you know, some bounce. And it looks like the shutter speed was pretty open. I mean, it's a sharp shot, but you can see that I was trying to match the ambient on that light behind them to get that in there. And that's giving a kick to that guy in the back too. So anyway, I'm really proud of it. I don't get to shoot that many groups, and this friend of mine is in the middle, and it was an acting group that she worked, and they were being directed. The director on this I got to shoot too, but she didn't want to get in the shot, and she is Adam Driver's wife, and I forget her name. But she was cool. I forget her name. What's her name? Catherine? I don't know. It's not good.
Something that's great is you're posing too. Do you want to talk about the posing that's going on here?
Yeah, I look at the sides of the face most importantly, like which direction I want their faces. So if you look at the guy all the way in the right, leaning on the table, there's a hair part theory that I go with 90% of the time, that the side the hair is parted is the person's good side of their face. So his hair is kind of swooping from the right to the left. So I was like, looks good on that side. I like him. If you see their noses going toward the door, toward where the door would be, then I usually like the left side of people's faces. And generally 60% of people are better looking on their left side anyway. So my lights in my studio are all set up to favor the left side of the face. So I always key left. So the nose, there's this Walt Whitman quote, always point your nose towards the sunshine and let the shadows fall behind you. And it's basically that. I point the nose towards the key and the shadows are going to go behind. So you can see even the woman in the hat in the top, I had her, you know, get her face way over there just to get that angle of her face, but I placed her on that side of the frame. The woman underneath her was really symmetrical on the jawline, and I wanted her straight in the camera. So I once I set this up, I didn't have people moving around too much from where they were, and I kind of like the vibe of the expressions to match that nobody's super, they're like, you know, actors that are in a, you know, doing a drama. So it was kind of dramatic and kind of cool. Like, I really like it. I got to do more group stuff. Do you guys get to do a lot of groups?
A lot.
Yeah.
And,
to make it look cool is so tough.
I wish I could get the professor to stand on the table though. That'd be great.
Yeah, you could do it. Come on. Anyway. All right. Anything else? Should I just keep?
Let's keep going.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yeah, anybody. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jack. The guy on the with his legs spread, that's not really something we're going to want to shoot most of the time. Was that deliberate or was that just him?
Yeah, body positioning. He said as the guy with the spread legs. Body position is totally up to you. I mean, people get a lot weirder with stuff like that. He sat like that. I don't think I said, hey, do me a favor, dude. Can you spread your legs as far as you can for this shot? I didn't think I said that to him. I know I didn't. I wouldn't have done that probably. But I like how chill out he is in that shot. Let me bring it up again. Do you guys want me to I haven't had the chat up because I don't have room on my screen, but I could do it.
You're okay. We'll just throw the questions at you when they come in.
All right, cool. Yeah, so his body position doesn't really. I just kind of liked how chilly he was. That was the question, right? So there's everybody's got a different aesthetic, and it's up to you how far you want to go with that kind of stuff. Nobody mentioned it before you, though. All right, I'm going to keep going, I guess. What do we got here? I got a bunch of these. We talked about Jamie. We talked about Jack and Michael, Bernardo, Jimmy, Eric. This is really what it's about. It's developing your shtick. So, like, what is a shtick? It's just kind of like the way you roll. I've been talking about it a lot. Like, people are going to respond to you and how you are. So, you know, if they have an aversion to, like, some photographers tell jokes. Like, if you told me a joke, like, first of all, you don't have time for jokes. Like, they're too long. If you're trying to get somebody to laugh with a joke, it just doesn't do it with me. So that doesn't resonate. So I've had photographers try to shoot me and tell me a joke, and I'm like, it's just not funny. And then it doesn't resonate. So you always have to be able to backpedal out of some stuff that you have to understand whether it's working for the subject or not, and be able to see that. I call not directing your subject, creating a flatmosphere. Like you're trying to co-create with them, not create something that just makes them uncomfortable. And a lot of photographers, unfortunately, make people uncomfortable. I shot this for Wrangler. I was doing a bunch of stuff for Wrangler, and I was out in a field. I think I look cool. I'm like doing that. One of my signature moves, a little look over the shoulder with some brow action. And I'm in the Wrangler jeans, and it was fine. And then I got back to New York, and they hired me for another job, and I was on a white cyc, and I had the art director and the creative team and everybody in front of me and the photographer, and there were like 15 people looking at me, and I'm in the jeans and I'm on a white cyc, and I was never like, I didn't go to modeling school. I just got thrown into it, and they said be a model. So I was like never that comfortable if I didn't have things to do. If I was sailing a sailboat, it was easy, but standing on a white cyc modeling jeans, not that easy. So I'm sure I wasn't comfortable. And then the photographer said to me, we were just about to start. He pointed to the camera. He goes, okay, I'm ready. And I said, okay. And he goes, okay, just do what you do. And I was like, I don't do anything. Like, I was like, I didn't say that in my brain. I'm going, I don't do anything. What's he want me to do? I don't do anything. So I just started to move, and my face, I must have been negative squinching, like big eyes, or my face didn't look good, because when the ad came out, it was like this. They just cut me right off. So I don't know. It was most uncomfortable. It's very hard when you got nothing to do that. So when I'm shooting a headshot, there's nothing for the person to do. It's the same situation. Like if I don't give them something to do, nothing's going to happen. So as portrait photographers, it's our responsibility to do whatever it takes for us to get the very best out of our subject. You got to. I mean, we must go into co-creation mode. We can't do it without them. They can't do it without us. If you choose that, that's my thing. So how do we do it? Number one is teamwork. You got to team up with them. Like you have to get on the same page with them. If they're nervous as hell, you got to figure out how to connect with them. If they're authoritative, you got to figure out how to connect with them. I had a guy who was all about beating me. One time I had to take his headshot, and I knew that he was trying his darndest to get me to take a bad shot because he knew about my reputation, and he's like, I'm going to get this guy. And and it was in a teaching environment because I shoot the students. So I said to him in front of the other student, I said, and he was an amateur photographer that had a corporate job. And I said, have you ever been told that you're like at work, you work better by yourself? He goes, oh, all the time. I was like, yeah. I was like, you've got to team up with me on this. Like, you don't want me to get this for you. It's your picture. Why are you fighting me? Number one is teamwork. Number two is repetition. You got to have your system down. You got to. And if you don't have a system now, you better work on one. Start today. Repetition is the first law of learning. I got another Bruce Lee quote that I love. Hold on. Why didn't it come in? Here we go. Don't fear the man who knows 1,000 techniques, but fear the man who has practiced one technique 1,000 times. It's so cool, and it's so true. Like that's the one thing I say with everybody: get consistent, and especially like if you aren't sure what your specialty is, nail one down. Like when I first started shooting, I didn't know I was going to be a headshot photographer. I was like, I'll take anything that they put in front of my camera that I press the button, they'll pay me for. I'll do. And I did it. I shot my first commercial job was shooting sneakers for Reebok. I just got lucky. I never shot a sneaker or a still life in my life. I thought I was going to shoot fashion. I was like modeling. I was like, I'll shoot fashion. I didn't know I was going to shoot headshots. I shot weddings. I shot whatever. Anything I got paid for, I shot it, believe me, until I honed in on this. And then I went just right at it. Repetition is your resource, because when you get off track or something's gone awry or whatever, your repetition will save you. That should have been part of my answer for that question the other time. You know, your entire shtick is going to be built on repetition. I used to be so repetitive. Now I'm not, because keep growing on this. I keep working on myself every day with this stuff. So what I did was I wrote it down. I used to say the same exact thing to everybody. I'd say, don't look so miserable. Give me a look like you're blah, 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 blah. And I do it in order. And then I'd go like, okay, I got to go into these words now. Then I got to go do this. Then I got to go do that. And what happened is I wasn't catering to the individual. I was just putting everybody in a box. And nobody's in a box, so you can't do that. So you just gotta keep going. And then talk your talk and walk your walk. Like, really know your stuff. Scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about your ability to direct a subject? Hit yourself with that. You don't have to say it out loud. Nobody's answering it but yourself. You can't trick yourself. You know, a lot of people walk around and they have imposter syndrome. You know, they feel like, and everybody, like I got a booking from a client who loves me and loves the work I did. And I really, the bar was set so high with this last job I did for this client. And the guy emails me, and the first thing was through my head, oh my gosh, I got to go do that. What if I screwed up? You know, it's just human nature. I still thinking that kind of stuff. You know, when I did such a great job for him and I'm ready to go, and then I get another job, I got to go. I'm going to do it. We get worried about taking a great picture for whomever is standing in front of our camera. But the truth is, and I said this before, I think the bar we needed is actually low, but sometimes it can be really high. So I got this, and I just popped it in there. I got this job shooting, this is the dancer I was talking about, Baryshnikov. So I got the job shooting Baryshnikov, and well, I didn't get the job, but the client calls me, you might be shooting Mikhail Baryshnikov. And I was like, really? And I was all fired up. I was like, wow. And he goes, I don't know yet. And then like 3 weeks later, he's like, all right, you got the job. You got to go over and talk to the assistant and see the place, scope it out before you shoot that day, see what you need to bring. I said, okay. So I go over there, and she goes, oh, it's so great you're here. This is awesome. He hasn't been shot in a really long time, and he has all his last person who shot him was Annie Leibovitz. And I was like, oh, great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know that. That's just fantastic. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I scope out the places. Everything's fine. I knew what I was going to do. And I get there. And like I said, I'm sure that I'm more confident today as a photographer than I was then. I know I am, just because time's gone by and I've learned a lot. And I was not confident directing him. And I love this shot, and I love his hand. I love the expression. I just love it. And I got it, but it was not like I was, jumping out of my skin when I was taking it. So we finished the shoot. I had like 10 minutes. That's it. And I was shooting it was his art center, and he said, stay right there. And I didn't know, but I had to go up these stairs, and I was shooting down into the floor that he was on. And he said, stay there. And I was like, well, I can come down the stairs. He goes, stay there. I want to open that door. I was like, okay. So he opens the door, and he goes, come here. I want to show you something. And he hands me this book, and he goes, look at this. And he opens the book, and I start looking through the book, and it's just pictures of dancers, and they were really cool. I was like, wow, these are awesome. I was like, these pictures are awesome. They're mine. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, I'm a photographer. I was like, what? He goes, take this book. And he's like, give me the book. He's like, here, look at this book. Here's another one. And he gives me this other book. And they were amazing pictures of dancers. Like, I was blown away. And at about 10 minutes, like, he's talking now, he's really into talking to me. And about 10 minutes in, like, the rapport was there then. And I said to him, you gave me like no time out there. And I was nervous as hell. And now we're in here and we're checking this stuff out and we're all buddy or whatever. And he's like, you did great. Come on. You were fine. I was like, oh my gosh. So just his, like, having that breakthrough with him to be able to say, I was nervous. I felt rushed, but I love the shot, and I got a bunch of shots for him. The moral of the story, I don't know what the moral is, but a couple of weeks went by, and his assistant called, and I said, I answered, and she goes, oh my gosh, he loves the shots. And he just wanted me to ask you if it was okay if I'm gonna use my voice recording thing to say this. He said, it's okay if he replaces all this stuff online with your pictures. And I was like, I say this word, shebang. shebang. That's what I said. I say shebang when I get a good shot. I don't know if any of you follow me, but that's like a catchphrase that came out. So I that's one of my favorite stories because it was like so stressful and had such a great outcome even throughout it all. So it was cool. All right. Any questions after that before I keep going?
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
This is Glenn.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, one thing we deal with a lot is we have to shoot for a magazine, for a website, for Instagram, for Facebook. So you shoot a bunch of photos and they're like, oh, I like this one, but it's not wide enough. Oh, I like this one, but it's not, they want one photo that can be cropped in about 150 different ways. Yet it's really tricky to get that. I mean, so it's what we have to deal with. It's our thing. What advice would you give us on how to do that?
Just have the first thing is really know your body lens combo. Like figure out what your favorite go-tos are and know the crop factor on them and what you can do and decide, is this shot good enough for me to shoot it a little wider? Like if I come in, is it gonna, if I like my shallow depth of field and I widen out on this thing, I'm going to lose that. That's not my look. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I chop off the tops of people's heads all the time and the heads are chopped off and they come back to me and they're like, well, what we want, can you put the top of the head back on the shot? Just, crop out further. I said, no, I cropped in camera like that. So now, and I had that so much, and I really do. And I think it's important because of proximity, especially in thumbnails these days. They're so small. So a headshot, you got to be in there. So the top of your head, it doesn't matter if I can get you closer. So I leave a little sliver over the top of the head so I can extend the background if I need to. So you just have to cover your bases without changing your aesthetic too much or giving up too much. I mean, there has to be some give and take. You have to tell the client at some point, hey, no, I can't. And that's going to change the look of my work. My work's going to look crappy. I shot this author for another author for this awesome guy, and I cropped his head off and everything. And Barnes and Noble wanted to put his picture on a pole in the store and wrap it around the pole. And they were like, well, we can't extend it because his head's cut off. And I was like, damn, you're right. So now I've made sure that I usually keep the top of the head. And if I do crop it off to keep the proximity intact, then I do it after the fact. Yeah, so you can leave a little bit around it just to be safe. The other thing that you can do is you can create like a basically a crop setup for each, scenario that you'd be in, whether it's if they're using it for the web or, every layout imaginable, and just figure out how your work fits into that. So they can't, just be like, well, look, this looks really good square. If you're going to put it in a banner, it's going to be this skinny and it's going to be all across like this. Is going to ruin the shot anyway. Use this one for the square, use that one for the banner. You're never going to make everybody happy. Yeah. But thanks for the question. Anything else? Keep going. How are we doing time-wise? Oh, geez, I got to go soon.
Yeah, we're whenever you're good.
I have a lot of stuff. I've been just off on tangents. Let me see. I just wanted to show this one other slide. This thing
Please.
because I made this slide, I really love it. So let me just rip through this part. I'll rip through this part, and then we'll wrap it up. And give me like 5 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take as long as you can take. We just don't want to infringe on your time.
No, I just have to. My car is at the dealership getting worked on, and I got to pick it up by 6, so I got to get over there. But that's
sure.
That should be fine. So anyway, back to this. I mean, that's basically it. This is the part. Oh, I'm just whipping through here. Hold on. How many of you know what your face looks like right now? If you're not looking at your Zoom camera or whatever, you probably don't know. So we don't know. So we look straight out. We have no idea what our face looks like. But I told you this before. Coolest thing I've discovered, the brain will attempt to tell you what your face looks like, but it does not know. And that is what's going on with the person. So then but it thinks it knows. So we have to be, when you're in front of a mirror, you do know. So you have to behave like a mirror by coaching them in what their face is doing. I always tell people, look, it's going to feel weird, but it looks good. So feels weird, looks good. You've got to get them to do what it is that you want them to do if you're going to have success. If you are very stringent in terms of what you want out of the session, which I am, NEFA face is this non-existent facial activity, which is it's just terrible. It's just blank. It doesn't, you have to go in and change it. Nobody's going to know what to do with their face. You have to go and change it. I'm going to give you some of my things. Just because this is what I came up with. It's instant mojo for you right here. It's kind of crazy. I call it direction by misdirection. It got termed as Hurleyisms in a workshop I was teaching. I didn't give it that name. The students did. They were like, these are Hurleyisms. I was like, okay. So I come up with all this crazy stuff to say to people. I'll say things that are just to get them to react, to get their brain off of the camera. So I made it into, I didn't do it. A friend of mine made it into an app. You can go to hurleyisms.com and you can see like my top 50 of them for free. And then I think it's like $4.99 a month for people to get like 1,000 of them. Just these little one-liners. And I like to say I have a 60-40 rule. It used to be like an 80-20 rule. Then it was 70-30. Now it's like 60-40. 60% of what I say to my clients is pure crap. And 40% is the stuff. Did I lose you guys again?
We got you. We're good.
Okay. I don't know why it's not. Anyway, 40% of the stuff is what they need to hear so that they're in the correct position for me to lay the crap on them. Without proper direction toward positioning, the crap is worthless. I can't, do anything without it's just weird because now, here's my favorite one-liner. Don't look so miserable. I say that all the time. I use a lot of directional stuff too. I'll be like, I don't know, just everybody right now, just try and do this. And humans like to be right. So I try and get them on things that just makes no sense. Everybody tilt your head on the same exact angle as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And then I usually follow it up. But no, I've been there. The angle's more severe than that. Can you go a little further? And I just say dumb crap like that. And it gets them to laugh. And I get this kind of stuff out of it. It might seem crazy. All right, let me go back to the screen share. I'm going to show you this one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up. I just had a video playing with that happy song. I guess you couldn't see the people, but they're cracking up. They crack up. So my thing is that I'm trying to get people to have a good time. Think about it. If they're having a good time on set, guess what happens? They're relaxed because you got them to forget about the camera. So a lot of my work, now I'm not saying that you have to infuse this into your work, but the number one thing that everybody's always wanted a photographer to do is make people smile. Why do you think they say cheese? Everybody's got to be, so it's our job. And when you're put on the spot to make somebody smile, it's very difficult. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world, but you have probably through repetition made people smile before. And then you've said the same thing over again or done the same thing. You can try the Hurleyism stuff or whatever. But what happens when we smile is that when we laugh about something that's legitimate, we shoot up to full-on laughter, however funny it is. Now, we shoot very quickly, but then the smiles generally drain out of our body slowly, and we go back to rest and back to where center is, which is the blank face that I was talking about, the NEFA face. So what happens is that when I get somebody to laugh, I shoot like crazy, and I'll get all these great laughter shots that are like totally crazy, sometimes blurry, whatever. But then when they come down off the laughter, you get like these amazing, if somebody's gummy, for instance, you get these less gumminess when the smile comes down. You can't go up to that. You have to come down off the smile for it. And when they get back to serious, think about it. What are your muscles doing when you smile? They're contracting. So when are they going to be the most relaxed? When the smile ends. So I get the best serious shots at the end after a smile. So it's a process that's part of my work. It's infused into my work. Like I have to, it's just part of the whole thing. So let me show you how this process works. Because this is kind of cool. And then we'll wrap it up with that. I call it residual laughter. So, or a jump and slide technique, which is basically this. So let's imagine that this is a range of expression gauge from everything from angry to ecstatic. And you can see I put a bunch of emojis in. This is the laughter curve. And then they go up, they laugh, and they come back. And it's this ongoing process through that. And basically, I'm shooting that. Every little dot would be a picture almost. So I'm shooting that many shots till they get back to completely blank. And then I'm guiding them. Like, I like my subjects to look sneaky or cocky, or CNA is confidence and approachability, and I love the laughter. But it's basically this cycle that I go through with all my confidence. Because if you look at the red in the middle, that's blank. And that anywhere very out to the outskirts of that is blank. You got to get past those two red marks to get into anything that's interesting. And most of the time it's positive in my work, but with the actors, I'll go into the negative, to the sneaky or cocky, and I love it. And they get jobs off of that. So that's really important. I think I'll end it there, guys. But I will, and then we'll just do some questions, and I can do questions. I'm happy to do that. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I have no idea.
Oh, no worries, Peter. That was awesome. Guys, let's go ahead and take the last few questions. If you want to ask a question, just jump in. He didn't scare you off. He wants to talk to you. So while we're waiting, Peter, I think we're going to definitely have to have you come.
I got the, oh, what's the new BHAG? The new BHAG is the same. It's similar to the other one, which was turn my monthly income, turn my annual income into my monthly income, which was what it was when I first started. So I was making $50,000 a year, and I wanted to turn that into my monthly income, and I did that, and now I've done fairly well, and I want to turn what I'm doing into my monthly income. So that's it.
Awesome. So Karen asked, what do you do to ensure a good jawline from people with no chin?
You have to get the best you can. Like, if they're really, I mean, there's only so much you can do, you know, but you've got to do it. It's the #1 thing for me. Like, if I see anybody in double chinsville, I'm not going to, you know, put that picture on my website or send it out to a client. If they're, you know, overweight and there's only so much you can do, the best thing you can do is stand them up real straight and have them and shoot them straight forward, and then crop a shoulder off. So you're eliminating the body. That's why I do the hold the sub thing. You're eliminating a lot of the body, and you've got to shoot them low. You got to get the camera down so you eliminate body. If you put the camera, so what happens is everybody thinks if you put the camera high, you help the jawline, but then you show more body. So if they're trying to take weight off, you want the camera low, plus you get a better background, and then you just jam the forehead straight. You don't ever turn them to the side, because usually skin's going to get caught up on some clothes or something like that.
Awesome. What about color workflow? Do you use color checkers or grade cards in your color workflow?
I have a passport color checker that I don't use much with my work. It's so nailed down that I do it by eye and with the human in front of me. But I'm a big fan of X-Rite and being calibrated, and I do have the passport, but I rarely use it because I'm really into my eye.
Awesome. What about retouching? Do you do it or you source it out?
I have a retouching company myself, so I have retouchers that are on staff, and my assistant does my personal retouching. But we have a bunch of retouchers that we work with to do it very specifically.
Any techniques for older folks, people with wrinkles?
I try to make it look like you can't see we did anything to it. I had another celebrity. This one's a friend of mine. I'll say, I don't know if you guys know who Yardley Smith is, but she's the voice of Lisa Simpson, and she's, I don't know how old she is. She's got to be older. Maybe she's 55. Maybe she's 60. I think she's later 50s. I'm not sure. But she said, Peter, I want you to take care of me. So I had my assistant take care of it. And then she said, Peter, you made me look 25. What are you, crazy? And it's so you're just, for me, what goes on my website, I want it to look like it's retouched, but not retouched. Like you can't really see the retouching. I don't want them to be aware of it. So you just try and, you know, talk to your clients like that, you know.
Well, it's awesome. Well, Peter, we're so grateful for your spending time with us. Thank you to Canon once again for sponsoring you. You have one more book to give away. We've chosen one, a name with Shebang close, but you want to choose another book to give away?
Oh, what did we do? Did we get the Shebang person?
I do have it here.
And the Bruce Weber person, we got that. And the other one, oh, she was born in '64. Okay, yeah.
So our Shebang person is going to be Shelley Hanks. That's the closest we can get to Shebang.
Shelley, that's it. That's perfect. And I don't know, were we going to do a random one?
Yeah, we could just do a random one if you'd like. You just want to click on the gallery view and just point out a name.
All right. All right. First of all, I'm only picking somebody with their camera on. So Brian, I think it was Brian. Was it Brian Busher? He had his camera on, didn't he? No, none of you guys have your cameras on. Now you're turning your cameras on.
They're all coming on now.
I already said Brian. Just give it to Brian.
All right, Brian. You've got it. Well, Peter, we're grateful for your time. Like I say, in the future, we're going to have you come and visit us at Symposium. We'd love to be with you in person and see your techniques in person.
All right. If you guys want to, try the Headshot Crew for a month. If you go to the gold, go to headshotcrew.com, hit register. You can register for free just to get in my database. But if you hit the gold membership, you get a free month. And you could try it for a month. There's a ton in there. And it will ask you for a credit card. We're trying to work on that. But it won't charge you if you cancel it before the end of the month. And it's $25, but it won't charge you. But if you stay and you like it, it'd be cool. It'd be great to have you. And I am working on this 10,000 headshots thing where we need photographers all over the country. I'm still looking for another. I'm putting an email out about that. So I don't know if anybody's interested in trying to see what I offer over there. Check it out. Courtney says it's worth it. Thanks. Thanks,
awesome.
Courtney.
Well, thank you, Peter. We're going to go ahead and share my screen. We have a couple more prizes to give away really quickly. So awesome. Let me pull that up. All right. You guys seeing my screen there?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we have a Think Tank bag to give away. We're so grateful to Think Tank. They gave us 5 bags to give away during the week. And the winner is not going to show. There we go. Ryan Pagelo, you get a Think Tank Photocross 13 bag. Our next one is we've created these swag bags, and they have a lot of stuff from our sponsors and also from BYU and UVU. We got some fun things in them. This first winner is going to be the Tiger King for the best background. Great job. We're going to send that off to you, Stephen. And right there is his swag bag. And then the last swag bag is going to go to April Guerin. So we're really grateful for you guys joining us today. Just a reminder, the hospitality rooms start now. As soon as we end this session, go to the Facebook page if you want to jump on a hospitality room. And the last thing is you need to vote. We have the competitions are ending tomorrow. So get the multimedia and APC votes in tomorrow on the webpage. So thanks. We'll see you guys tomorrow with Rod Marr in the morning at 11. Thanks everybody for being here.